call the Monday, February 26th work session of the Portsmouth City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mrs. Lucasberg.
Here.
Mr. Moody.
Here.
Ms. Simmons. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Dr. Whitaker.
Present.
Mayor Rep.
Here. Tonight we have a joint meeting with our school board, and I'll ask the chairman of the school board, Claude Parent, if you'd like to call your board to order.
I'd like to call the Portsmouth School Board to order. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Miss Allen.
Present.
Ms. Atkinson. Reverend Fleming. Mrs. Hines.
Present.
Mr. Lamb.
Present.
Reverend Patillo. Dr. Whitaker.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Parent.
Yeah, here. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome everybody to this joint meeting between the City Council and the Portsmouth School Board. This is the first meeting that the City Council has had since that awful tragedy on February the 14th at the high school in Florida. And I'm going to ask everybody if they would stand and let's have a moment of silence and let's remember all the victims of that terrible event. Thank you. And if we would remain standing and have the pledge to the flag, and here it is behind us, and Councilman Moody, would you I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Parent, we thank you for the great accommodations and for meeting with us tonight. And speaking for myself, I'm really excited about what lies ahead tonight, and particularly hearing about your capital needs and taking the tour of the two schools. And we are looking forward to working with you on the budget. And with that, would you like to make some comments, please?
Yes, I would like to say basically the same thing, Mayor Rowe, and thank the members of council, our vice mayor and members of council and our city manager for working with us. We have been meeting, the mayor, Mayor Rowe, and our city manager, Dr. Patton, and Dr. Bracy and myself. We have had monthly meetings. And of course, that doesn't preclude that our liaisons will be meeting as well. But we've had some very productive meetings that I think that going forward, it's going to be a positive year. So I'm looking forward to it. And as tonight, as we discuss our capital improvement projects, that's going to be exciting because you'll see some new things. You also had the opportunity to attend the presentation of our capital improvement facility study. So that we'll be discussing, and also the opportunity to tour this building as well as Churchland Elementary. So very productive, look forward to it. Good year. All right.
It is a good year. We're excited.
Thank you.
And now it's time for us to go to item number 2 on our agenda, which is the superintendent's budget. Over to you, Dr. Bracy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman Parent, Vice Chair Williams, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Simmons, members of the school board, and City Council. As you are aware, developing a sound, workable operating budget is one of the most important jobs of superintendent because it touches every aspect of the school system and it impacts our success. Tonight, I'm sharing with you an overview of the school division's needs, which I also shared with the school board earlier this month. I spent a lot of time in our schools talking with staff and parents about the ways to improve our service to children. We have many successes to be proud of. Our STEM and robotics programs, First College, and nationally recognized high schools. We want all of them to remain successful, speed up progress, and provide children with the best education possible. Therefore, tonight's proposal offers 3 solid recommendations on how to do that. My proposal seeks to attract and retain quality staff, expand academic offerings, keep our students safe. There's no surprise that all of this comes with a price, but investing in our students will make them and our community stronger. Our budget is made up of 5 main funds, but the heart of the budget is the general fund, which involves the day-to-day operation of the schools. As you can see, it's the largest part of this proposal at 75%. For the rest of this presentation, I will address the general fund only, as it is the main operating fund and is the fund with the most flexibility lies. Now let's take a closer look at our proposed operating budget. At almost $147.3 million, this proposal is about $2.9 million above the current year budget of $144.3 million. My recommendation includes initiatives identified by the school board, staff, and community priorities. They are an employee salary increase, additional kindergarten assistants to ensure fairness and balance, and staffing in our elementary schools, additional security officers, middle school instructional support, and expansion of some career and technical education initiatives. Later in the presentation, I will walk through the specific changes and cuts that my team and I purposely made to help pay for these needs. Let's look at the school funding sources. As you will note, the largest portion of our funding comes from state funds, which is based largely on enrollment. But state funding will decrease for certain programs, such as regional special education program and class reduction initiative. We expect some increases in sales tax, federal revenue, other funds, but state funding is currently a moving target. So taking all of that into account, we are projecting realize a net of $628,000 in increased revenue. But even with this increased funding, we will still fall short about $2.3 million. That's why the children of Portsmouth Public Schools need your support as city leaders. Now I understand that the city has a long list of priorities too, but we've heard time and time again that residents believe that education is an important one. In our recent budget survey, so many respondents told us not to cheat the students of a good education and not to be afraid to advocate for their needs. So I'm standing here on behalf of children, behalf of hardworking teachers, on behalf of those who support public education, and I'm asking you to support the school board system with $2.3 million. That funding will take care of 2 very important budget needs: a much-deserved 2% raise for all staff and 9 full-time security officers to promote continued safety within all school buildings. Let's begin with an employee salary increase, as it represents at almost $1.9 million, the major portion of this recommendation. The importance of our ability to implement a salary increase cannot be underestimated. It's all about being competitive in the employment marketplace. Portsmouth ranks 3rd in the Hampton Roads region with an average teaching salary of $57,738. Along with teachers, other staff members deserve a raise. For example, school nurses, we rank last at $35,097. School nurses contribute directly to the health and well-being of our students. Excellent teachers make a difference between academic successes and failures for students. We must continue to shore up our competitiveness in the employment marketplace. A 2% salary increase, in my opinion, is absolutely necessary. The final part of this recommendation deals with school security. I'm proposing adding 19 security officers, but I'm only requesting city funding for 9 of them. Our teachers and parents have asked for more support to monitor our schools and to stay on top of safety matters, to help prevent bullying and to keep everyone safe and protected. I'm sure you were shocked about the school shootings in Florida just over a week ago. I'm truly heartbroken about this tragedy as well. School systems across the nation are vulnerable, so we want to be as proactive as possible. Since I became superintendent, I have asked for additional school security officers as a preemptive measure. I believe those officers are critical to helping maintain and monitor day-to-day safe operations at our schools. Therefore, I hope you will support this request for 9 more school security officers. But I'd also like to say that I believe Portsmouth schools are safe. We work hard to ensure that. We have safety measures in each school. We have cameras and special entry procedures, like a buzzer for the intercom. Throughout the year, we conduct lockdown and crisis drills, which practice active shooter scenarios. In a few weeks, Chief Chapman and her team have offered to provide an active shooter presentation for our school administrators and for the entire school division. We're also thankful that we have 5 uniformed police officers, which are called school resource officers, that work in our middle and high schools. Since the Florida tragedy, we have continued reviewing our school security and believe in a future conversation with the Portsmouth Police Department regarding SRO coverage. To reiterate, I'm asking you to support a raise for our teachers and staff and more security officers. Along with those 2 items, I've identified other needs, but instead of asking for more money, my team and I made cuts and changes in the operating budget. Specifically, we initiate around $1 million in reductions. They include a decrease in healthcare costs because of the healthcare plan changes, adjusted projection for benefit costs based on staffing needs, staffing trends, a reduction in our VRS plan, which our rates are directed by the state, adjusted projections in other costs such as turnover and attrition savings. The $1 million in reductions, along with the anticipated $600,000 in increased revenue, will help us pay for some of the academic and safety improvements so we can accomplish $1.6 million in additional needs. These additions include a career and technical education teacher for the pharmacy technician course to continue the CTE extension, 15 additional kindergarten assistants to complete an initiative that the school board began a few years ago. Realizing that quality learning must begin at the earliest levels, the 15 additional assistants will ensure that all kindergarten classes will have an assistant. Churchland High School, which is our largest school, does not have a graduation coach like IC Norcom and Wilson. Last year, about 63% of our middle school students passed our math SOLs, which is up from the previous year, but still below state standards. Math coaches will help the targeted instruction and remediation. Enrollment at Churchland Elementary and Churchland Middle have grown. Due to state requirements, we must add an assistant principal and a guidance counselor at each school. The state is changing the social studies curriculum. We need an interventionist to work with our school and staff to help with student testing. Next, we need an auxiliary services director to ensure a more strategic approach to facilities maintenance, food services, and transportation services. Last fall, a third party reviewed our central office and administrative staffing and recommended that the Director of Human Resources and Operations be split into 2 separate positions, which is a more effective organizational structure. Additionally, on January 25th, the board and city council received recommendations for the long-range facilities planning study. That presentation made it quite apparent that our aging facilities represent a significant challenge. You will see that on your school tours tonight as well. I also would like to reiterate that the school division will cover 10 of the 19 security officers to help keep our schools safe. And the employee benefits line item you see here reflects more accurately our projected expenditures in that area. Finally, the children of Portsmouth Public Schools are worthy of an increased investment. To make this happen, the city and the schools must work together even more strategically at both the local and state levels. There's much to gain in this approach. A strong school system is an engine of economic development, but most importantly, the children deserve the best we have to offer. Because in the end, it is the responsibility of both the school and city leadership to help provide the students with the skills they need to be competitive in the 21st century. This concludes my overview of the superintendent's estimate of needs. If there are any questions, if they're not for me, then I would like to turn the next presentation over to Chuck Sellers, representing MB Khan.
Let me check with council, but I wanted to commend you. This is really a thrilling budget presentation, and I I thank you for the comprehensive approach that you've taken. To my members, my colleagues on council, questions? Vice Mayor Simmons, and the mic right there.
Dr. Bracy, if you could answer two questions for me. One is the 15 instructional assistants in the kindergarten classes. How many kindergarten classes do we have?
Total? Do you remember the actually? It's in the, it's over 50. It's between 50, it's not quite 60, so maybe anywhere between 50, 55. So this 15 will complete that.
Complete that.
Yes, where everyone will have an instructional assistant.
And secondly, what is our ADM now? Is it up, down? Where are we with that?
It's down approximately maybe 160 students from where it was last year this time.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes, Dr. Bracy, thank you for the information. In the strategic reductions, do these include all of the cuts that the school will be making, particularly any academic programs that will be cut because of this budget, or will we just sustain where we are?
We will sustain our current programs that we're offering, but we saw some areas that we could trim in order to make some of these additions. Last year during the budget season, that's the time when we had to reduce positions in order to provide a 2% increase to all staff. But this budget does not include any additional cuts in personnel.
Okay, so as far as any of the instructional programs that Portsmouth Public Schools currently offer, there will be no cuts in those academic programs?
No, there won't be any cuts. As a matter of fact, you'll see an increase with our CTE. We added four classes in our last budget, and this year we'll actually have 2 additional courses, 1 new position, 1 new teacher for the pharmacy tech position.
Okay, thank you.
Nate?
Yes, sir. Just a question in reference to the 9 school security officers, which I'm 100% for making schools safer any way possible. At this time, between our high schools and middle schools, is there a full-time SRO in each one of those schools at this time?
It isn't, and let me get to that. This budget, we put this request together and presented it before the actual events took place in Florida.
Sure.
So we were already requesting the 19 additional school security officers. Within the budget, we were able to build in 10. Currently, our elementary schools do not have any type of security. So what this will allow us to do is to have at least one school security officer in each elementary school, and it'll give the middle schools, which have 2 security officers, an additional one. So they would have 3. In our high schools that currently have 3 security officers, it will give them 4. Now, as far as the SROs, school resource officers provided through the Portsmouth Police Department, we currently have 5, and they're housed in the 3 high schools. 1 shares Churchland High School and our New Direction Alternative School, and the other split is between Craddock Middle and Waters Middle.
Okay, because, and I'm all for adding security, as I said, with the security guards, but I would like to see a school resource officer full-time in each high school and middle school, because sharing, seconds count. But
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And that's fine. And we've been in contact with the chief in terms of looking at what they can offer in the future as related to that.
Dr. Patton.
Yes, Councilman Clark and members of council and the school board, Dr. Bracy and I have been communicating consistently after the Parkland shooting, even talking on the weekends. And on yesterday, he called to my attention, Dr. Patton, something came to me, and I asked him what, and he said, we do not have SROs in the 3 middle schools. And I immediately said to him, we need at least 3 in the middle school and for security. So this is something we're working. We may be able to accommodate this before the 2019 budget is in place. So we're working on it, already discussing.
Thank you. To my colleagues on my left, any questions?
I have the same question. Nate already asked my question, but I guess on the second part of that, the credentials of the SROs or the security officers, are they coming from our police department, or do they have to have something different?
Well, the school resource officers will be from the police department. Mm-hmm. The school security officers, they go through the state training as well. Mm-hmm. So they'll be trained during the summer, and when they go into the schools, they will function as our current SSOs do as well. So you don't necessarily have to have the training when you come on board, because we will provide that to them once they've been hired.
Bill.
Superintendent, since school safety, certainly after the Florida tragedy, is on the public's mind, I think at a different venue, it'd be a good idea to go over a comprehensive safety plan on each of our schools to put the public at ease that when their kids are dropped off to school, that they're in a safe environment that can't be penetrated easily. I know I mentioned that to Dr. Patton. I appreciate that we're going to add some SROs, but I think the public and certainly I think this council, we would like to know what other safety measures are being implemented or already in place.
Okay.
Right.
Question, the 2%, that's across the board, all employees, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the second question, and along the security lines of the police officers and all, and I know you may have already explored this, but through the federal grants and other types of grants, were there any other types of monies available to support any of the security measures, especially as far as anything that you may have to do to the buildings or doors, anything like that? Has that been explored?
Yes, it has, Mr. Smith. We are waiting for the security grant, the federal grant, to drop so that we can apply for that. And if we can apply for that, then we can, once we review it, we can determine whether we can fund some of the additional 9 SSOs that we're looking for, it can actually come out of that. So we are looking at that avenue as well. So if we can get if we receive the grant, then we wouldn't need as many as we're requesting from you. So we are doing that. And I think then the second part to your question was,
You answered it. It was just the grants. My question was, were you exploring other alternatives as far as funding for security and also for the facilities?
yes, and we're looking at anything that we can find with that as well. And as we get toward the end of the year, we're going to look and see what is it that we can do to provide some, if it's additional cameras, security systems, and upgrades as well, because we need that. That's one of the items that we found in our facility study that was done, that we needed upgrade to our camera system. In some of our schools, the security system still functions, but there is better equipment out there now from when that was installed. So those are some things that we'll be looking at as well.
And one last question. Way back, you familiar with the DARE program?
Yes.
Is there ways, I guess, we can maybe revisit to look at that? That's also another way to get a uniform type officer in the building, if the sheriff is amenable to, exploring that. I know that took some classroom time at times and it was done away with years ago, but now any available security officer in some of the buildings would be a tremendous help and force. If that's something that's you think may be useful.
Yes, and I'm very familiar with the DARE program. As a matter of fact, within the next couple of weeks, the sheriff and I already have a meeting scheduled to talk specifically about the DARE program and any other resources that he can provide to the school division. So that's already been set, and we're going to look directly at that.
Okay, thank you.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Bracy, first of all, I want to commend you and the other regional superintendents for the safety letter that you sent home to all the students in the region. That was wonderful. My other comment is, are we still at all having any conversation, I guess means you and Dr. Patton, about combining this risk management fund so that we might free up some money to do all these things that you're talking about?
We haven't had any specific questions regarding risk management. I think within the next, at our next meeting, we can discuss it if that's what you all desire, and the school board. I mean, I'm sure everyone's open to have discussion regarding that.
Yes, sir. If there's no objection from council, Dr. Bracy or through the city manager, could we get the figures that the city has funded the school system since the 2008, when we had the significant recession period there? Get those funds so that we can see where we were and where we need to work back up to. I believe we're talking 2008, we had that significant recession. Yeah. And there were some significant state cuts, I believe, at that time as well.
All right. Any other questions from my colleagues on council? Thank you, sir. And again, thank you for this very comprehensive and concise presentation.
You're welcome, and I'd like to thank my finance team and communications department for helping to put this together, so I need to give them credit as well. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Chuck Sailors from MB Khan Construction Company, and he will talk more in depth about the facilities audit.
Thank you, Dr. Bracy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll try to use my playground voice this evening, if that's okay. I hear the feedback on the microphone, so maybe it'll be a little helpful. Mr. Mayor, Dr. Patton, Mr. Chairman, and Dr. Bracy, members of the council and the trustees, we want to thank you for the opportunity to be with you this evening. We're here mainly to help facilitate your visit to these two facilities this evening, to give you an opportunity to see firsthand exactly some of the challenges that these school structures currently face. Although they're strong in their bones, there are a number of items that are creating challenges for instruction, for safety, and for the utilization of instruction time and the improvement of the students' test scores and so forth. Tonight's overview as you visit these structures are going to give you an opportunity to see some of the reflections that these spaces need a little help with. Currently, the instructional needs and the physical need of today are not quite matching very well. For example, when this structure was built, the utilization of instruction space was X number of square feet. Over the years, as instruction and technology has increased, the size of a normal classroom has increased, but the way this building, just for example, is designed, expansion of spaces is very, very difficult, if not impossible. You'll see as we walk through some of the corridors, by the way it's designed, there's no outside light coming into the classrooms, and there's really no way to physically remove walls to expand rooms and not create problems somewhere else. So to prevent one problem, you're creating another in simple terms. The staff, the teachers, all of the instructional leadership in the schools are to be commended for doing miraculous work and pulling together to make sure that the students are successful. Some of the things that you'll see this evening in this building, for example, the stairwells, the way they have to, the way the administration here at the school has to control traffic, for the lack of a better phrase. To have students going upstairs to the second floor and down has to be segregated hallways, one up, one down, instead of what you would normally see in a middle school or high school where the students just use the same stairwell. That is a physical challenge. It could also create hypothetically to some security issues with evacuations in the future if needed. Again, I mentioned earlier, there's no windows in a lot of the classrooms. The heating and air systems, the electrical systems that you'll see in these buildings, although you may not see that tonight, because I don't know that time will give us an opportunity to dig into the bones of these buildings, if you will. You're going to see and hear about some challenges related to just the physical age of the equipment. For example, a lot of the electrical panel distribution systems in these buildings are no longer manufactured. So if a staff member for the school division has to come in and maintain a certain piece of electrical equipment, finding the replacement parts is not only timely, but very costly as well. A lot of the classrooms still use chalkboards. And in today's technology, the interaction for students between technology and the instruction and the teacher's ability to do that is very limited. Also, you'll see that there's a number of places where, again, they've been maintained, but the buildings need some love. Now, we were at the meeting that we presented our report to the school division board, and a question, I think it could have been from one of the trustees or maybe from someone on council, about the cost to renovate a structure versus replace a structure. And a lot of that has to do essentially with the amount of work that needs to be done. In today's economy, it's literally more cost effective in many cases to replace a structure than to renovate, especially if the building is occupied by students. When you have to renovate a building that's being occupied by students, not only do you have to make sure that the construction zone is physically safe for the people working in those environments, you need to make sure the students are not in a position to wander into those workspaces. You also want to make sure that the workers on the job site are adequately background checked. And those are items that if a new building is coming out of the ground or if a renovation is taking place when students are not on campus, you can get the work accomplished in a faster time frame and saving money. But right now, because of the economy and the position that it is and the strength of what we have going on in the United States related to infrastructure construction, the value of materials and labor is in a good position. And so this is something that as your two bodies have your deliberations on the direction and the funding thereof, that should be taken into consideration with your discussions. Also at the elementary school, which we will be visiting as well, we want you to make sure that you look for things like areas in the elementary school where the foundations have started weakening and it makes the floors look uneven. It also creates issues in the walls where the wall may not be quite as structurally sound as it could be. Again, none of these are putting children, in our estimation, in harm's way, but these are issues that need to be addressed, and the longer we wait, the more costly it will be. The gymnasium floor is a concrete surface, which is an issue that needs to be addressed, as we would recommend. Also, at the elementary school, the stage is not American with Disabilities Act compliant, which is something that we encourage you need to be addressed immediately. So you will see a lot of areas that we will do everything we can to point them out. But understand also that with the time that we have this evening together, you may not have quite the ability to see everything. And I would feel safe to say that Dr. Bracy and his staff would be more than happy to work with us to schedule return visits to these structures to kind of get into the bones in the future if need be. Also, as you leave this evening, once we go to the schools and come back and you conclude your joint session, we have a parting gift. We have copies for each of you that we've provided Dr. Bracy's office of the actual facility study in its final form. As you can tell, it's a phone book. And it makes riveting bedside reading at night, I can assure you of that. There is no way that you're going to look through this one time and come up with every answer that you may have. We encourage you to look through it multiple times. Take notes, write on it. If there are questions that you have, we will be more than happy to answer those. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure that any decisions that you make in the future are complete, they're thorough, and most especially they're informed. We want to make sure that the citizens of Portsmouth, and more specifically, the students that are in your collective care, get the best possible learning environment so they have something that's safe, secure, and technologically equal to everyone else in the Commonwealth. At this time, I'll be more than happy to entertain any questions. With us this evening, I have a number of members of the MBCon team that will be going with us, so we will be more than happy to try to answer questions for you tonight, or we can simply return to them to you in writing in the future. So, Mr. Mayor, is there anything from the council? Yes, sir.
We're going to Churchland Elementary because is that the worst case scenario, or because it's close?
A little bit of both.
Oh, okay.
To be honest with you, we wanted to be mindful of your time. Okay. We realized that with the budget considerations you have this evening, we wanted to give you every opportunity to see as much as you could other than one structure. And so this will be kind of a drive-by tour, if you will, and we'll be more than happy to facilitate something in the future in any of the buildings.
And I'm assuming, and I hope, Mr. President, y'all have begun to prioritize the need to replace some buildings, because I know that's one that needs replacing. I don't know how much money we're planning to put in that, but I think it'd be an exercise of fertility to try to renovate that building, that old, rather than replace it.
Well, man, and we have some recommendations in the document that I referenced a minute ago that offers our opinion and our best information on what we would suggest that the city and the board do as a collective effort. It does require some replacements. It does require a lot of renovations, and this is, quite frankly, a wise investment in our mind for not only the educational stabilization of the community, but from an economic development standpoint. Although you have a certain defined area physically that is the city, there are still people that would move here when given a certain things that they're looking for. I'm consistently amazed with the number of middle manager parents in corporate America that spend their weekends driving through communities, looking at schools, housing developments, places of worship, infrastructure, to see if this is where they want to bring their child from, or their children from Michigan, Ohio, New York, wherever the manufacturing wants to relocate from, or the distribution. And they do a drive-by on Saturday morning at the schools. And if they're not wowed by what they see, they'll go build their $500 million plant somewhere else. And so those are things that we take into consideration also in making our recommendations. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I was present for the presentation on January 25th. Great job, you and the team.
Thank you.
They mentioned adding another middle school. Has any, I guess the school board would need to determine which location or which area of the city would be best to locate the additional.
Well, it's my understanding, and Dr. Bracey may correct me if I'm wrong, but it is the conversation that we've had to date, is to build another middle school, relocate this school to that campus, and then reutilize this property for another place of instruction, potentially a middle school in the future. Quite frankly, demolishing this building and building a new one in its place. If you were to go with two schools of the same type, whether they're elementary or middle, you can utilize an economy of scale with a prototypical design. Again, that's one piece that could be used for your consideration. I hope that answers your question. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
As an alumnus of both this and Churchland Elementary School.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you refresh me on what year this building and Churchland Elementary were built?
I am not 100% sure on. It's a 60s design, that I do know.
This was 1968, I think, Dr. Bracey, didn't you?
Okay, this one was built in 1968. The elementary school is 64 years old.
Older than me.
Mr. Chairman, is there anyone on any of the trustees that have a question?
Well, we have one more question, Dr. Wood.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Dr. Richards, when can we expect some type of recommendation from the school board in regards to what we're talking about as far as the CIP for the school system?
At our next board meeting, we will discuss it. We were waiting on the final report to come, and we'll receive that tonight. We've already had some preliminary discussions in terms of what the next step would be, and I think from that last meeting that we had, we knew that an additional middle school, a new middle school, would be the first priority, because that would help align us with the national middle school model of 6 through 8. Currently in all of our middle schools, we have 7th grade. So if we build a new middle school, we'll pull students from the other middle schools, and the bulk of them will come from Churchland Middle, because they have over 900 students now. So we're projecting a new middle school to have around 900 students.
Okay. Question, is the plan that we're going to be visiting all of the schools in the city that are going to be a part of this CIP?
Is that
the reason I'm asking that is because I'm not sure what the final goal is as far as our visitation. If we have professionals here that have been contracted to bring back reports and making recommendations, are we doing the visitations to confirm or what would be the purpose of these visitations?
Dr. Whitaker and members of the council and school board, it was about a month and a half ago that Dr. Bracey asked me, had I ever been in this school? And I said to him, I've been in this here. And he invited me, in fact, that same day we were meeting, it was our regular meeting, he said, how much time do you have? He said, we have an hour. And he says, let's get in the car and come here. Well, first of all, when I got to the first hall, I had a comment to him. And I said, I feel like I'm enclosed. That was the first words I said to him. I'd never been in this building. He said, Doc, you're just beginning the visit. So during that time, I said to him, I don't think and we had this facility study done. I said, I don't think most members of my city council have been in this building. The study, and on here it says, number one priority is a middle school. I said, I think it would be great if we could have the council to see this school, which is one of the oldest, as we begin to talk about the CIP and the need for a new middle school. With that said, Dr. Bracy commented, I think all of council and the school should see Churchland Elementary also, one of the oldest elementaries in the city. So the purpose of this is for your eyes to see what the collective vision of MB Khan is sharing with us for a need for a new middle school. Last year, Dr. Bracy and his team talked about getting portables for this middle school. And I immediately said, we took the portables away. We had portables here, I don't know what year we took them all up. And then that's when they decided, let's do this study, let's see what comes of it. And tonight I hope you all will see the need for us to work toward a new middle school.
Okay.
That's the purpose.
Thank you, because I'm comfortable with the report. Also, I know that when it comes to some of our city construction, I don't know if we have that level of scrutiny as far as visiting and looking at issues. We don't do that, so.
That's why they came back.
Right, so I'm comfortable with the report.
And Dr. Whitaker, to add to that, within the report that you will receive, there is some proposed recommendations as far as timelines for replacements of the additional schools as well. So not just Churchland Middle and Churchland Elementary, but other schools as well. And if we can keep up with that timeline over the course of the next 15 years, we would have a significant CIP project. Of course, all that's based on funding and needs, but they have spelled all that out based on the needs of which needs to come first.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could also say, we did not have the air come on intentionally, but I want you to understand, you hear the noise in the background. Imagine trying to teach a group of students with that in the background in your classroom. And so these are some of the physical challenges that you see on a lot of the campuses currently. Mr. Chairman, are there any questions you may have?
No, other than to, in the facility study, just because we're talking about the older elementary schools, you have Churchland Elementary in 1958, Hodges Manor Elementary in 1956, and West Haven in 1954. Then you have the older middle school, Churchland Middle School being 1970, Craddock Middle School 1966, and Waters in 1966. So I want to thank, on behalf of the board, this joint meeting, that we can sit down and talk about it, because I understand at your retreat that you talked about education was one of your top priorities, as long as, and also building the image, improving the image of Portsmouth, and also we had the discussion about smart city. So we look forward, both the school board and the city council, working together on this budget so that we can move forward. And I want to thank Mrs. Kinsley is here this evening. Would you please stand, and your staff for hosting this meeting tonight. We really appreciate it. And with that, Mayor, we are ready for the tour.
Thank you. And for the audience, we're going to get on a school bus and go, well, we're first going to tour here, right?
Mr. Mayor, if I
And
could,
then we'll get on a
what
school
we're going to
bus.
do is we're going to facilitate the tour here.
Okay.
And then once it's completed, whoever's interested, we'll board buses and go to the elementary school. Also, as I said earlier, Dr. Bracy's office will distribute a copy of this report to you. We also will provide copies of this report to members of the media through the superintendent's office following tonight.
And as technically, we're still meeting even though we're taking the tour, so we'll come back here to adjourn. Yes. We're back in order, back in session. And on behalf of City Council, thank you, Mr. Parent and Superintendent Bracy, Dr. Bracy. This has been a very awesome night, very informative, very educational.
Yes.
And thank you for both components, the overview on the budget and the comprehensive briefing on the schools and the tour.
Right.
And any of my colleagues on council have any questions or comments? Do you have any comments that you'd like to make?
Just wanted to say that this has been, I think, a very productive evening, and that both governing bodies coming together and sitting down and actually talking about our issues that we've been talking about for years, and then having this tour, I think it enhances communication, and we're going in the same direction, and that's huge for this city. And I want to thank the mayor and the city manager and all of the council members for joining us this afternoon, and we appreciate your support as we move forward for a greater school system. Did any members of the school board would like to make any comment?
You said it all.
All right.
Well, it is indeed exciting. In fact, it gives you goosebumps to think about.
Right.
And with that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion that's been made. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.